Well, hello there, it's me, Oakwyrm, back with yet another video on the tropes employed by some piece of media I enjoy. So, the Autistic Robot, or sometimes Alien, but we're focusing on the robots here, is a very old trope at this point. It's been done so many times, and more often than not, it's done in a way which makes not just the autistic audience, but really any neurodivergent audience member cringe. We see the autistic non-human pretty exclusively in sci-fi and fantasy titles for obvious reasons, and here today I'm going to focus on two characters in particular. Both characters I love, but one of whose story was handled much better than the other. I'm talking, of course, about Lieutenant Commander Data from Star Trek The Next Generation, and b.o.y.d from the 2017 reboot of DuckTales. I adore both of these characters with my entire heart, but b.o.y.d is undeniably the one who has the better story, the one who does this trope right. So let's get into it, shall we? Data is an android, and in his case, the series consistently contradicts what it tells us with what it shows us. We're told, pretty much from the jump, that Data has no emotions, but at the same time, everything we see from him contradicts this. Data wants to be human. That is a pretty defining aspect of his character. He wants to experience these wondrous emotions he is constantly hearing people talk about, and here's the kicker, constantly from the moment of his creation been told that he does not have. So when he does feel an emotion, he makes excuses. He just calls these people friends because he's used to them. Geordi's just so important to him because reasons. He just keeps a holo of Tasha close because reasons. It's all quite logical, he assures himself. These can't be emotionally driven actions because he does not have emotions. He can't have emotions, that's what everyone's always told him, and why would they lie? The thing is, though, they are lying. The show itself is lying to us and to itself, and it never realizes that. Data does experience emotions. He wants things, he cares about people, he mourns lost loved ones. If he were just a machine guided by logic with no emotion present, there would be no reason why some of the crew are more important to him than others. Or if someone was to be more important in his calculations, it should follow rank. There would be no reason for him to keep a cat or express himself through art, poetry, and music. And, most importantly, there would be no reason for him to want emotions. Data is a being with emotions who expresses them differently to the majority of those around him, and who, because of what he is and how he acts, has been told that he does not. This could have led to a fantastic arc about discovering this lie, coming to terms with it, and growing into a happier, more fulfilled version of himself. No magic neurotypical chip necessary, but it didn't. The Data we know and love dies, still believing himself to be incapable of emotions, and is replaced with his memories downloaded into B4. No matter how much I love Data, watching his arc play out just hurts. It hurts to see him go to his death, believing himself lesser, because he cannot conform to the standards of the neurotypical world he was born into. b.o.y.d, on the other hand, is practically the polar opposite of Data in terms of storyline. b.o.y.d is a minor character in the series. So far he has had only 2 episodes in which he has any kind of speaking role. The first in the Season 2 episode Happy Birthday Doofus Drake, and the second in the Season 3 episode Astro b.o.y.d, which aired on May 22nd, 2020, so this is pretty recent. His first appearance doesn't really touch on any of the things I want to talk about, as he's very much just a side character in that one. The only thing it does is that, at its start, he's completely unaware that he is a robot, and has a meltdown when he finds out he is. He ends that episode as the adopted son of the Drakes and seems to have recovered somewhat from the shock and accepted his mechanical nature. But it's in Astro B.o.y.d that he really shines. The episode starts with Huey out with the woodchucks where he gets made fun of by one of the other kids for being robotic. In this series, all of the triplets have gotten distinct personalities, and Huey is definitely portrayed as autistic even though the show hasn't said the word. Enter B.o.y.d, who expresses admiration of Huey's precisely cut s'more roasting sticks, and introduces himself as a definitely real boy. Huey doesn't bat an eye and they immediately become friends, but when Huey says something which triggers B.o.y.d's PTSD, he begins to glitch, setting the camp on fire with his laser eyes. Again, Huey does not bat an eye and instead drags B.o.y.d directly to Gyro Gearloose's lab in an attempt to find someone who can help his friend. Gyro unexpectedly freaks out when he sees B.o.y.d and says he's dangerous, but Huey jumps to his defense and says he's just a kid even though he's wired differently. Through the events of the episode, B.o.y.d continues to calmly state his, for lack of a better word, humanity. He's a real boy. This is something he knows, even as everyone except Huey actively tells him he's not. It's eventually revealed that B.o.y.d, then known as 2BO, was the first big project Gyro worked on. His first invention that turned evil. Except B.o.y.d didn't turn evil. Akita, the guy Gyro was interning for at the time, overrode his programming to turn him into a weapon. Or tried to, at least. But at his core, B.o.y.d is a real boy. The first thing he ever asked was if he was a real boy, and the answer Gyro gave him at the time was a firm definitely. No matter what anyone wrote over top of that, no matter what memories were erased, that became the core of who B.o.y.d is. A definitely real boy. The episode ends with Gyro coming to this realization that no matter what he or anyone else says, B.o.y.d is a real boy. Not evil, not just a machine, not what anyone else tries to make him, just a kid. So he puts himself between Fenton and a charging B.o.y.d who is at this point seemingly under Akita's control, and B.o.y.d stops and hugs the person who is basically his birth father, breaking through Akita's programming. The biggest difference between B.o.y.d and Data is what stance the series takes on the source of their humanity. What proves they are real, thinking, feeling individuals? With Data, it's all external. His actions, his relationships, how he talks, how he appears to other people. He has to prove his rights several times, and in one episode where he's actually put on trial to determine whether he's worthy of human rights or not, a moment which makes the judge reel and start to think, shit, this might actually be a human, is the revelation that he's had a sexual relationship. Which is its own can of worms I'm not going to open here, but you get my point. Star Trek posits that he has to prove he is human. He has to do these things, tick these boxes, fit the mold. Otherwise, he is not one of us. And isn't that just painfully familiar? DuckTales, on the other hand, takes the opposite route. It's internal, they say. He's human because he says he is. He's human because that was his instinct the first time he woke, to ask if he was real. Because that was the one core thing that stayed with him through everything, that he is human. The source of his humanity doesn't come from any external act or from how other people perceive him. It comes from how he sees himself and what he tells others. Others may say he's wrong, insist he's just a machine or a weapon, tell him he's a danger and that he should be permanently shut down, but that's just what they think. He knows they're wrong, and that takes precedence over everything else. It's not on him to prove himself. It's the people around him who need to realize that they are wrong. So yes, the autistic robot trope can be done right. And of all series, it's DuckTales that nails it. I say that as if it surprises me, but actually this series is so unbelievably good, I'm honestly not even slightly surprised. Thanks for watching this video. If you liked it, consider hitting like and maybe subscribing. I will be back here Thursday after next. Bye!